This is FAFO, holler it loud. Fuck around with fiction, get the facts drawn. Getting triggers just the cost of the crowd. We're toxic to the lies, truth we're proud. This is FAFO, no smooth talk, no vow. You brought your stories, we brought the real. Now run your mouth and meet the South down. Fuck around and find out, burn it down.
What happens when arrogance overrides reality? When power ignores consequences? When leaders believe they're untouchable and societies think they can never collapse? History is basically one giant cycle of this can never happen to us, and then it does. Today, we're looking at the biggest FAFO moments in history, humanity's greatest examples of arrogance, greed, pride, and consequences. Let's up and go. It's going to be a good show today. Thank you guys for being here with us as we end the second week of the FAFO podcast. Man, it's been fun. It's been an exciting trip already. Changes are coming already, as they're wont to do sometimes. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for being here in the chat with us this morning. And if you want to be part of the show, it's real easy to do. You join us on Kick. You join us on Facebook. Soon you can join us on YouTube or live stream at 9 a.m. every morning, Monday through Friday. We're right here. You can be part of the show. We like to have that fan interaction and our audience interaction. I say fans, really it's our audience interaction, right? We like to have that back and forth conversation where we can talk in real time. Discord is coming soon. Trying to figure that out. Look, y'all got to have mercy on the old man. And I say that, old man compared to some of these young 20-somethings out there just killing it. But here we are. Here we are. Because one thing about being my age, you've had a lot of history with FAFOing, buddy. You've seen it through 5 decades of people who think they're untouchable, that consequences don't happen to them. And yet it does. And yet it does. Also, if you'd like to support the site, it's real easy to do. Go to the FAFO Podcast.online. We've got our new merch membership store set up, great discounts, and it helps the show out, helps keep the show going. As we grow this thing, and we are going to grow it. We're going nowhere. You can listen to us if you just want the audio version of it. You can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Podcast, Amazon Music, and many others. Just look for the FAFO Podcast. You'll see the logo, big cowboy skulls up there. You can't miss them. You can't miss them. And you just listen to us on the go. We have got great numbers already on our audio streaming stuff. I've been pretty impressed with it. I wasn't sure, like I said, it all starts when you start something new. You don't jump out on top. You don't jump out with all these amazing numbers. It is a process. And you have to be patient. And you got to be ready to grind. But it's very rewarding when you see that coming to fruition. It's one person at a time, right? And that's what I love about it. And that's what we're here for. And today's show is not going to be any different. If you have suggestions for the show, you can leave them for us. All you got to do, and I believe, when you set up these new emails, you got to be, I have to remind myself, like, all right, what is the email address we're using for this show now? Because somebody somewhere has already taken your email address, the one you'd like to have. It's got to be something else. Like this one, if you want to message us directly to the show, it's the FAFO Podcast 55 at gmail.com. I'll say that one more time. The FAFO Podcast 55 at gmail.com. I've already had one suggestion. It's a good one. And I think we're going to incorporate it on Mondays. I think Monday's show is great because the weekends are a heavy sports-related type of thing, right? So we have a lot of our sports happen on the weekends when a lot of people are off. That gets the most viewership. And so you'll see a lot of FAFO moments happening in sports. And we're going to introduce some of those on Mondays. Thanks, Mike, for that suggestion. I appreciate it. And we are going to be incorporating that. I like it. I like the idea of it. And that's kind of what we want too. I want this podcast to be your podcast. Look, the whole point of this podcast is to give a voice out to the normal working man and woman your neighbors, your friends, the people who are out here in the trenches, not the elites, not those people up there, not those people working out there in fantasy land somewhere, here in the trenches with you. That's what this show is all about. And that's what this show will remain about. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it exciting. And that's what we are going to do right here. And we're going to keep rolling. So let's get into today's show. I think, we talk about some of the great FAFO moments in history. I talked about these on a prior show a little bit. I think we talked about Napoleon invading Russia, things like that. People who just found out that, this not good. But there are many other things that happen. Right there, there's a lot. Because human beings have a terrible habit. They do. Of believing the rules no longer apply to them. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Human beings think we're invincible until we find out that almost everything is our kryptonite. Like we've talked about empires thinking they'll last forever. Right? Leaders thinking that they can't fail. Corporations think they're too powerful to collapse. And history has repeatedly responded, want a bit? And so we're going to take a look into it. And we'll get the low-hanging fruit out of the way real quick. The Titanic. Let's just bust the ice right there. Pun intended. The Titanic, right? The unsinkable ship that sank on its maiden voyage. Yeah, it is one of the greatest arrogance-driven disasters of our time. All right, at the time, it was peak human engineering, a marvel of the oceans, of the seas, right? But nature said, not so fast. Nature humbled humanity immediately. It didn't wait. It didn't give it a few weeks or a few months or a few years. It happened quickly and with purpose. And the Titanic was more than just a ship sinking. It was humanity discovering that technology, it doesn't care about your confidence. And it's funny because that word, unsinkable, lasted exactly all of 4 days. 4 days. They're not sinking this ship. 4 days later, the guy said, want to bet? Let me show you something. Well, I said, we talked about Napoleon invading Russia. That sort of thing. And Mike here brings up a great one. Genghis Khan defeated the Roman army and was about to conquer Europe. Remember, the Mongol Empire was huge. Genghis and his army partied the night before his victory. And it gave time for the Roman army to reinforce and defeat the Mongols the next morning. I'm telling you. You think you've got it figured out, and then you don't. You think you've got it all under control, and then you don't. Every empire eventually believes it's smarter than reality itself. And then reality just tends to hold up a mirror and go, here you go. Take a good long look. Take a good long look, because here it is. Here it is. And that happens over and over again. Over and over again, that happens. Who remembers? And this is how quickly we put things out of mind. Right? Like things like the Titanic, they stay with us. But do you remember the Titan Submersible disaster? Remember that? This was not too long ago. This is what? 3 years ago now, almost? On June 18th, 2023. Remember that? It's supposed to be like this billionaire tourism thing. They had this submersible. And there was extreme risk involved, and they ignored all the warnings. It was experimental technology. And you're going to do this not in a training pool so you can find out the flaws of your machinery, you do it in the deep ocean. Because the arrogance is believing that nothing's going to happen. Nah, we got this. We've got this. And this is the one operated by OceanGate, by the way. So it was this. It's designed to carry a pilot and 4 passengers to depths of around, 12,500 feet. And they were going, you talk about just a sense of irony. They were going near the Titanic wreck site. And the passengers reportedly paid somewhere around $250,000 each for this experience to go on this particular expedition. And if you'll remember, there were 5 people on this. 5 people died in this implosion. Stockton Rush, who was the OceanGate CEO, Hamish Harding, Shahzada Dawood, Suleiman Dawood, Paul Henry Nargalit. I know I butchered those names and I apologize. But during the descent, communication with Titan was lost quickly. And here's the part. Here was the strange part about that, right? So we're seeing this. Those reports came out pretty quick, and the world was watching. Search teams scrambled, media coverage exploded. People were everywhere, right? People were hoping that it was just trapped, right? That communication failed, that rescue might still happen. But there were your experts who knew something bad was afoot. Something bad was afoot, and investigations later backed that up. Because at that depth, the pressure's absolutely unimaginable. So think of this. Around that depth, you have about 5,500 pounds of pressure per square inch. 5,500 pounds. That means the hull fell suddenly, and the implosion happened almost instantly. Like snapping your fingers. That's how quick it was. They were dead before they knew it. Literally dead before they knew it. It's wild. And here's what happens. And this is why it became so controversial. Because reports quickly surfaced that engineers, the deep sea experts, the industry professionals had reportedly warned OceanGate for years about safety concerns, about these experimental design choices, the lack of certification, carbon fiber hull risk. Like, why are you doing that? Why would you do that? And this is experimental carbon fiber. Most deep sea submersibles are titanium. They're steel. They're specially tested materials. Titan used carbon fiber combined with titanium. And experts warned them repeatedly. Repeated deep dives could weaken the structure over time. And Titan was reportedly not independently certified through traditional marine safety organizations. Like OceanGate argued, innovation was being slowed by excessive regulation. I wonder why regulations exist. Do you ever wonder why? It's to prevent this sort of thing. I mean, because here's the thing. Deep ocean physics do not forgive shortcuts. They don't. And there were other warnings. Yeah. Former employees and industry experts allegedly warned about these safety concerns years earlier. And there were legal disputes involving safety complaints before the disaster. The Titan disaster became larger than just an accident. Why? Because many people saw it as modern tech arrogance. It's that billionaire risk culture. Move fast and disrupt things mentality, right? Ignore the expert warnings. We know best. I know my stuff. People don't understand. That's like your daughter. Or not even your daughter, like you. You're growing up and your parents are. You tell your parents you're in love. I met so-and-so. It's the real thing. I'm in love. You're a teenager. You don't know what love is. And you're trying to explain that. Your parents are trying to explain it to you. But you know better. With all of your zero experience, you know better. And then that love you were so sure of, just wrecks your world. Until about 5 loves later, you meet the one, hopefully. Right? Yeah, the ocean doesn't care about innovation buzzwords. It doesn't. Physics is undefeated, baby. It's undefeated. And at 13,000 feet underwater, confidence stops mattering. I'm telling you, it's wild. And it doesn't just stop there. That was one of the more famous examples. But who remembers the Grizzly Man? Do you remember the Grizzly Man? This is the guy. His name was Timothy Treadwell. So he became famous for living among wild grizzly bears in Katmai National Park and preserved for many summers during the 90s and early 2000s. His story became widely known through the documentary, it was called Grizzly Man by Werner Herzog. Yeah, he formed, and he believed he had formed. Let's put this, let's say this for what it is. He didn't have this, he believed, personally that he believed, he had a deep emotional bond with grizzly bears. That was his first mistake. Like he had the spiritual connection with wilderness. He was one with the wild. And he had this unique understanding of animal behavior that nobody else had. Because for years, yeah, he had camped among grizzlies. He filmed them closely, spoke publicly about protecting them. And he often described these bears like they were trusted companions, misunderstood friends, family members even. And he had a girlfriend. I know, believe it or not. Grizzly Man had a girlfriend. Yeah. Amy Huguenard. And she joined him on his final trip to Alaska. But unlike Timothy, she was less comfortable around the bears and the wilderness conditions. So what went wrong? What went wrong? Where was the big FAFO moment here? Well, by late season in October of 2003, 2003, food sources for bears were lower. Many bears were more aggressive at that point. Conditions were more dangerous. So it was creating this big mixture, this soup of tragedy. And park rangers and experts had long warned that staying that late in bear season was extremely risky. And then October 5th, 2003 rolls around, and a large grizzly bear attacked and killed both Treadwell and Huguenard near their campsite. A pilot who was arriving to pick them up discovered the site of the attack, the scattered remains, and an active bear still nearby. Authorities later killed the bear during those recovery operations. But here's the thing. There was an audio recording. Yeah. It's one of the most disturbing parts of the story. A camera at the campsite reportedly captured audio of the attack. The lens cap was on, so no video really exists. The recording has never been publicly released. But Werner Herzog, who created this, he's a filmmaker. He famously listened to it and later advised it should never be heard publicly because of how horrifying it was. So the moments of their death were captured. And this is why the story was so famous. Because the story was very symbolic of that romantic nature we get of being out in nature and understanding these wild animals, of the emotional projection that we as humans put on predators. Believing passion overrides biological reality We see these as fluffy, misunderstood things who have the capability, the sentience that we have. And they don't. Grizzly bears are apex predators, powerful, fast, strong, aggressive. They're not your best friends. They're not your buddies. They're unpredictable. They're territorial. Extremely dangerous. And Treadwell, for years, ignored warnings because he became convinced that he understood the bears better than the experts did. The rules no longer applied to him. Until he FAFO'd, man. Nature is beautiful, yes. But nature is not your friend. Wild animals are not Disney characters. Human beings keep trying to emotionally negotiate with biology, and it fails every single time because the wilderness does not care about human intention. It's wild because you have a combination of things here. And the reason it's so fascinating is because there's this intersection that happens, right? And this one was the intersection of idealism, obsession, ego, compassion, and reality. Yeah. And you admire his passion, and then you're horrified at how badly he underestimated the danger. FAFO. FAFO. Dude, I'm telling you. Humans are arrogant. There's no more arrogant species on the planet, of course. It's our nature. Humans know best. And then you have humans that know better than other humans. And these things stack upon one another. Here's a great one. How many of you know Steve Jobs? Come on. He surrounds you every day. He surrounds you every day. Folks approach buffaloes and moose like they're peaceful. Yeah, they do. They do. Like these large animals will not hurt you and stomp you to death. Dude, they don't rationalize things the way we do because they're not humans. They don't have the brain capacity for that. But take Steve Jobs. iPhone, Apple, all these things that this man created. All these things he had people create for him. All these great ideas, this great mind. And yet, the problem becomes for Steve Jobs that he thought he was smarter than reality. It's a tragic, terrible example of intelligence, ego, denial, and alternative thinking colliding with reality. Because, look, we know that Steve Jobs changed modern technology forever. There is no question about that. No question about that. But even genius can become dangerously convinced the normal rules do not apply to them. And that never becomes more apparent than Steve Jobs and this whole juice diet cancer story. Have you heard this? Have you heard the juice diet cancer story? So he was diagnosed in 2003. Well, that's not a good year, is it? With a rare form of pancreatic cancer called pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor, PNET. Now, this is important because it was not the more common aggressive pancreatic cancer that most people think of when you think pancreatic cancer. His type was slow growing and actually is often very treatable, especially when caught early like his was. But here's the thing. After his diagnosis, here's what Jobs did. He delayed the immediate conventional surgery for several months instead of jumping right on it and getting rid of it. Instead, here's what he did. He had alternative medicines he tried dietary approaches, holistic treatments, acupuncture, herbal remedies, special diets. By the way, including versions of fruit-heavy diets, restrictive eating plans, and cleansing concepts. Steve Jobs tried to cure cancer with juice diets, is what they narrowed it down to. Now, that's an oversimplification of what he actually tried to do there. But the core of the controversy is very, very true. He delayed the proven medical treatment while experimenting with alternate approaches, and look what happened. Because most doctors believe that his cancer may have been highly treatable early on through surgery and been done. Now, eventually he did undergo surgery, but that was in 2004, a year later. But by then, many critics and medical professionals argue valuable time may have been lost. Yeah. And people around him were frustrated by how long he resisted surgery. Even his biographer, Walter Isaacson, reported Jobs later expressed regret about delaying treatment. I'll bet. I'm telling you, you let them say, hey, we think you're not getting the CA out. Before I'm like, let's go cut away. What do you got to do? Let's do it. This man had intelligence, innovation, genius, success, a proven winner, a proven intellect. And yet he still became vulnerable to denial, overconfidence, and belief in unconventional solutions. Yeah. Tragic. It's tragic. Chance says the same could be said about Roy Horn and the White Tiger. Raised it from a cub, and then one night during a show, Montecor attacked him. There you go. Oh, Roy FAFO'd. All those years, nature finally gives in, man, and says, boom, here I am. And nature did it to Roy Horn on the biggest stage possible. Who knows? I got one for you. Now, those were easy ones. Those were layups. What about John Chau and the North Sentinel Island? Do you know this one? Here's a nice FAFO moment in history. Do you know this one? Because it's fascinating. So North Sentinel Island is one of the most isolated and protected places on Earth. So the Sentinelese made one thing very clear for generations. They wanted to be left alone. But old John Chau, he believed his mission overrode reality. And reality answered immediately. So here's what happened. So John Allen Chau, he was a 26-year-old missionary, right, who traveled in 2018 to North Sentinel Island. So this is not long ago, folks. 8 short years ago. So it's an isolated island in the Bay of Bengal near India. And the island is home to the Sentinelese people, one of the most isolated tribes on the earth. Now, it is believed that the Sentinelese have lived in near total isolation for thousands of years. Let that sink in. Thousands of years. And the Indian government strictly prohibits outsiders from approaching the island. Why? Well, not only does the tribe reject outside contact, they have violently defended their isolation. Outside diseases could devastate them, of course, and previous encounters had already shown they did not want interference. This island is legally protected. Boats are forbidden from approaching within several miles. And these warnings have been out there for decades. Anthropologists, governments, survival experts, historians, all warned, do not attempt contact. Well, These Sentinelese had already repeatedly fired arrows at helicopters, right? Attacked boats. And they just reject outsiders immediately. Their message is obviously clear. Leave us alone. Leave us the hell alone. You do you. We happy on our island. Stay away. But not John Chau. Oh, not John Chau. John Chau's like, F it. I'm a religious man. I believe in my mission. I have this spiritual calling to bring Christianity to the Sentinelese. And John, he wasn't going off half-cocked, though. He trained for years for this mission. Oh, yeah. He studied mission work. He prepared physically. He was fit. And he also illegally hired fishermen to bring him near the island. Now, they were getting paid. Okay, this idiot wants to go out there. Your money's as good. Let's go. Now, he knew it was dangerous. It's not like he didn't know. He knew it was illegal. And he knew it was extremely likely to end badly. But he believed, by God, this is important. He believed his mission outweighed the risk. So what happened? Well, in November of 2018, Chau approached this island multiple times. He was trying to get there. Now, the fishermen who were taking him here reported that the tribe initially warned him away, like, just leave, go. Now, the encounters appeared tense but non-lethal. But old John kept returning anyway. He was going to be there with his righteous fury to bring Christianity to the world. An admirable quality. You want to bring hope and light. But some places, in the darkest corners of the world, that light just does not want to shine. So on his final trip, the Sentinelese said, F it. And they attacked and killed him with arrows. Yeah. Fishermen reported that they saw the tribe members dragging his body across the beach. And Indian authorities never recovered the body because attempting recovery was considered too dangerous and potentially catastrophic for the island tribe. Chau became Chau? Absolutely, Mike, I agree. Yeah. I mean, come on. This is where your conviction overrides reality. And look, John Chau, his intentions, good. His purpose, righteous. And his mission justified the danger. But good intentions do not eliminate consequences, folks. It doesn't. Good intentions do not eliminate consequences. And poor John. Poor John found out. I wonder what that conversation at the pearly gates was like. I wonder what that was like. John? Yes, sir. Do you understand where you went wrong? I was just trying to spread the word. We understand and we appreciate it. We do. But John, they did not want to receive the word. They did not want to receive you. There were plenty of places to receive the word. But John, we appreciate the effort. I don't know if we can let you in. I believe you got a free pass. I believe they let him in for sure. They let him in for sure. Like, dude, that was effort. It didn't work, but you tried. You tried spreading the word, buddy. That's more than a lot of people. So kudos to John Chau for trying to spread the message. For trying to go where even angels fear to tread. But here's the problem. The world does not automatically bend itself around your intentions. It doesn't work that way. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this one. One of the biggest FAFO moments in history. Pearl Harbor. That's right. This is the attack that awakened the giant. Because here's something you have to realize about Pearl Harbor. At that time, America, the U.S., was not involved in World War II. We were bystanders. We would help support things here and there, but we were not directly involved in that war. Period. Now, Japan, for whatever reason, thought differently. They thought, well, if we go ahead and hit America when they're not looking, they'll never come into the war because they'll realize that we can reach out. Hit them when we like. And there's no question, Japan achieved a devastating short-term victory on December 7th, 1941. But they did this while accidentally triggering one of the most overwhelming long-term responses ever seen. It became the ultimate example of us underestimating your opponent, of mistaking surprise for victory, and confusing tactical success with strategic success. Because on December 7th, 1941, the world changed in a matter of hours, and it changed forever. You see, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on a Sunday. And the attack devastated the shipyards, aircraft, military personnel. And it shocked the American people. And for Japan, it looked like a massive victory. But history would reveal they may have just triggered one of the biggest FAFO moments ever recorded, and they didn't even know it yet. Because Japan believed America was distracted, that America was isolationist, that we were unwilling to fully commit to the war. And they weren't really wrong about some of that. But here's where they were. Here is exactly where they did mess up. This is where they were exactly wrong about. You see, the Japanese leadership hoped a devastating surprise attack would cripple the Pacific Fleet, that it would damage morale, force America into negotiations, and buy Japan time to expand across Asia and the Pacific. And if you're looking at it strategically, it wasn't completely irrational. I mean, they understood America's industrial power was enormous. I mean, America was a powerhouse and growing. So the goal became hit hard, hit fast, shock the public, and hope America loses the will to fight. But they made one catastrophic mistake. They underestimated how Americans would respond emotionally. And this has been an ongoing theme of the United States of America since its inception. You see, Pearl Harbor didn't break America. It unified it. I mean, make no mistake, the attack was devastating. There were over 2,400 Americans killed that day. Battleships destroyed, damaged. Aircraft wiped out. Just total shock, nationwide, coast to coast. I mean, you've seen the imagery. You've seen like burning ships, smoke covering the harbor, chaos everywhere. And for a few terrifying hours, it looked like Japan had shattered American military confidence. And tactically, again, the attack was extremely effective. But then reality entered the chat, right? Because the Japanese attack, while devastating, was incomplete. Because America's greatest weapon wasn't sitting at Pearl Harbor. America's greatest weapon was the factories, the industry, the production, the manpower, and an absolutely furious population. Japan poked an industrial giant right directly in the eye, and they did not understand the population of this great country. Because after Pearl Harbor, America transformed almost overnight. Factories shifted into war production, recruitment exploded, the economy mobilized for total war. America went from divided, cautious, and partially detached from the war to unified, enraged, and fully mobilized. Men and women were in. Sign me up. What can we do? And once America fully entered World War II, the scale became overwhelming. The balance of power completely shifted. The United States became an industrial war machine, producing ships, tanks, aircraft, ammunition, and vehicles at a historic rate. The scale was unimaginable. I mean, think about that. American factories are producing bombers, carriers, tanks, ammunition, warships. This is at a speed that the Axis powers struggled to comprehend. Japan had won a battle, but it awakened a production machine capable of outbuilding entire nations. And Pearl Harbor may be history's greatest example of winning the first round and losing the entire fight. So there's been a comment, a famous comment attributed to Admiral Yamamoto. Now, some people debate the exact wording and they debate the source, but it is a quote that has lived on since then, no matter who spoke it or when it was spoken. But that quote attributed to Yamamoto was this: "I fear all we have done is awaken a sleeping giant." Now, whether that exact quote was spoken or not, history proved that warning very accurate. History repeatedly shows people become dangerous when they mistake surprise, fear, or temporary advantage for permanent victory. And history is full of people who won the first battle and lost everything afterward. Because let's face it, the most dangerous mistake in war is underestimating what your enemy becomes after you hit them. Right? What's that famous quote? Everyone's a badass until you get punched in the mouth. There you go. And human beings continue to make these mistakes. They do. Whether it's nations, corporations, leaders, people, they keep believing that they control escalation, they understand consequences, and the other side won't fully respond, and here we go. Pearl Harbor became one of history's greatest FAFO moments because Japan succeeded spectacularly, right before triggering consequences beyond anything they could control. And there you go. Some of the biggest FAFO moments in history, folks, right there. And it's tragic. And there are many others. And on Fridays, we will be exploring many more of these. Those were just a handful. There are so many. When I was putting the show together, I was looking for these moments, and there were several, and I was like, all right, I want certain ones in here. And I kept trying to figure out, well, damn. My God, there are tons of these. Some I'd heard about, some I hadn't. And how we sprinkle these together. And I'm giving y'all a look behind the scenes right now. Because that's kind of what happens. Is you're trying to figure out the show dynamics. What do we want to talk about? How do we want to talk about it? Because you don't want every show being the same show. Like you try to mix them up and say, hey, today's show we'll have a little bit of this. Tomorrow's show we're going to do a little bit of this. I'm working on a huge show right now that will probably be independently put together that I'll just upload for my members, I'm sure. And, I was never a big research guy until I really got into this show. And, well, I say that. When I started writing my books, I started learning how to research properly. And now I get into this, and this just really learning how to research. And then you start finding out things. And then you have to navigate what's true and what's not. Because there's a lot of that. There's a ton of that. You can't just, something pops up on your screen and take that as the gospel. You have to triple and quadruple check everything and make sure that thing actually happens. And so one of the fun things about putting the shows together is what you learn from it. And boy, do you learn a lot when it gets down to the nuts and bolts of all of this and how it all works. It's fascinating. Because one thing you see in these FAFO moments, especially like doing today's show, is that you have different centuries, you have different people, you have different disasters, but the same human flaw. Because people repeatedly convince themselves the danger is exaggerated, or maybe they're smarter than reality, or that consequences only happen to other people. You know people like that. I know people like that. Hell, I've been that person a couple times in my life. I'm not afraid to admit it. Fortunately for me, I didn't have to learn it on this kind of scale. I didn't have to become one of the John Chaus of the world. Because look, history is humanity repeatedly underestimating reality. It's out there for us. That old adage of history repeating itself is so true. And we may be living through several giant FAFO moments right now. And people are too distracted to notice. Too distracted to notice. Because every civilization thinks it's smarter than the civilizations that collapsed before it. So as we do with every show, I got a few questions for you to ponder or you to answer in the chat. It's up to you. But what is your biggest FAFO moment in history? What is it? What is your biggest FAFO moment in history? And here's another question. What current event do you think future generations will study as a massive mistake? And I'm sure that one right there, whether people are willing to answer it or just ponder it, will have some varying degrees of, because I know what I think about it. I think the woke mind virus is one of the biggest FAFO moments of our time. I do. The woke mind virus is the biggest FAFO moment of our time. So my final question to you is this. Are we currently living through a historical collapse that nobody fully sees yet? Is that where we're at? Because history isn't just dates and wars, it's warning signs. And humanity's repeatedly learning. Arrogance has limits. Greed has consequences. And reality always wins in the end. And every generation believes they will be the exception. Because I believe the most dangerous words in history may be, this could never happen to us. There you go. Guys, thanks for tuning into the show today. We are here every day, live on Kick, on Facebook, soon to be on YouTube at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have our big show on Saturday night, so that'll be tomorrow night at 9 p.m. until It is the FAFO Podcast Unchained, where who knows what's going to happen, who knows what's going to be said. Join me and Brody Hawk for that. It's going to be a blast. If you want to listen to the audio version of this only, you hit us up on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, on Amazon Music. Give us a listen. Give us a like. Give us a follow. Help us grow this thing. If you want to support the channel, all you have to do is go to the FAFO Podcast.online. Think about becoming a member. There are great discounts, great things you get there. We're giving out a lot of stuff. So stay tuned. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy and have a great weekend. We will see you back here on Monday. You are listening to the Fuck Around and Find Out podcast. Facts, truth, no BS. Let's effing go.
Four on the floor, have a tank of gas. Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass?